The Parliamentary Select Committee on Education is assuring heads of senior high schools their concerns over infrastructural deficit will soon be resolved, as Parliament has approved a facility to deal with the challenge. Heads of schools in the central region have been revealing how difficult it has been to deal with the huge numbers of students with the introduction of the free SHS and the double-track system. Richard Kojonyako joined the Parliamentary Select Committee on Education to visit some schools in the central region and has come through with this report.
A tour of the Select Committee on Education took them to the University Practice Senior High School, Holy Child Senior High School, the Ghana National College on the first day. The second day saw them at the Palm Senior High School and Winneba Senior High School. The tour, according to the Parliamentary Select Committee on Education, is to acquaint themselves with situations in the various senior high schools after the implementation of the free senior high school and the double-track system. Some of the heads of the schools have been explaining how they've been able to manage the schools in the face of the challenges with infrastructure.
And for APAM, limited facilities, even we don't have the facilities in town to accommodate these students. Genuinely, it was very hectic, but as a headmaster, my powers were very limited. So you will be asking them, go to Accra for change. Accra will tell them the headmaster has a power to change for you. So in fact, many parents pass through this hell. They will go to Accra, they will come to APAM in that order. But at a point, when we complain this to the
Chairman of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Education, Siaka Stevens, assured the schools the challenges with infrastructure would soon be over.
In fact, what will save the situation now is that recently Parliament approved $1.5 billion, which is 720 billion Ghana cedis. And that money is meant to clear all contractors who have raised their certificate up to the tune of $165 million. They've not been paid. Part of this money will be used to clear, and then we'll pay all contractors, especially get fund ongoing projects.
Ranking member of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Education, Peter Nochukote, is happy with how the heads of the schools have managed the affairs of the schools in the wake of the daunting challenges that confront them.
I want to commend the school heads for the job they are doing. I know they are working under very critical, constrained conditions, but we can give them the credit for being able to manage the system up to this time, because the challenges are there, and there's a need to help them overcome these challenges. It is not easy administering school. But with the increasing number, I think they have done their best.
The Select Committee says it will present the findings to Parliament for actions to be taken on them. Richard Kojonyako, JoyNews, Cape Coast.
The regent of Dagbon, Kampa Kuyana Andane Yakubu Abdullah, has denied claims by the Santehino Tumfose Tutu II that he failed to cooperate with the committee of eminent chiefs mediating the Dagbon chieftaincy dispute. The Santehino during a recent visit to Jubilee House, where the roadmap to lasting peace was presented to President Akufo-Addo, noted the absence of the regent at the ceremony.
Performed their funerals waiting till when they thought they would also have a good environment which would be suitable to them to be able to perform their father's funeral so that they could move on. And therefore, we still have regents, most of the regents in the Abudu side also now waiting. The bone of contention has been whether regents can play a part in the funeral of Yana. And that also has come up. In fact, after our meeting, there were issues raised by the representatives of the regent of Dagbon, and then the Kugana. I don't know whether they were. Are the representatives of Kugana here? Because I asked for them to come. Prime Minister, you didn't get them, or they refused to come? They said they are sick. All right. And he said he was sick, so he was not coming. Okay, because. After this, we will have to take very serious decisions on those people, because I cannot countenance anyone holding Dagbon to ransom or this country to ransom.
Well, the regents of Dagbon, Kampakuyatna and Dani Yakubu Abdullah have strongly contest the views expressed by the Asantehene. In a letter addressed to President Akufo-Addo, he rather accused Asantehene of not availing himself for a meeting.
The pronouncements of His Majesty Otunfo before Your Excellency on 21st November exposes clearly the untruth on which the decisions on the mediation committee of eminent chiefs is based. Their decisions, entirely out of tune with the principles of mediation and with Dagbon customs, appear to be aimed at achieving an agenda that should not be adopted by Your Excellency, democratic father of all Kenyans, under the oath you took upon assumption of office. Your Excellency, Otunfo's suggestion that I refuse to respond to his invitation is also not factual. I actually met him at Menchia 1st February 2015 and 18th July 2017, once at my behest and once at his invitation. A third invitation was sent during the Buvum Fire Festival in September 2018, when it was inappropriate to leave Yendi. Through his intermediary, he agreed to postpone my visit to a later date. When I followed up later, the first week of October 2018, he indicated that he was traveling to South Africa and would invite me upon his return. I have since not heard from him. I did not also unilaterally get my lawyer to go to him, but advised the lawyer to respond favorably to his invitation on the matter before his committee, which strangely is also receiving judicial attention at the instance of persons claiming to be leaders of the Abdu Royal Gate, for whom he has no blame. The courts have been contemptuously ignored by the committee. The Otunfo further grossly erred when he claimed that a very uncustomary advisory council of elders he put in place could not meet. The council met at least 7 times, with this last meeting in December 2011. During its lifetime, it discussed and advised me on funerals, land administration, and customs of Dagbon. Copies of the minutes were sent to the Northern Regional Minister and the Yendi Municipal Assembly. Copies of the minutes of the last 2 meetings were sent to the chairman of the Committee of Eminent Chiefs.
Meanwhile, the National Peace Council is appealing to all stakeholders, especially the Royal and Dani and Abudu families, not to renege on their commitment to peace. The council further charged the people of Dagbon not to allow external and internal forces to derail the path to peace.
The National Peace Council wishes to congratulate the Otunfo-led committee for presenting to His Excellency the President a clear roadmap aimed at bringing a closure to the Dagbon conflict. The council further expresses confidence in the committee and looks forward to the return of peace and development in Dagbon. The roadmap, which basically envisages that the Abudu royals should perform the funeral of the Yana Mahamudu Abdullah from December 14 to December 28, 2018, to be followed by the funeral of the late Yana Yakubu Andani II from January 4 to 18, 2019, is plausible, and the council requests all Ghanaians, especially Dagombas, to support the roadmap to the fore. The council further wishes to express gratitude to all individuals and groups who in diverse ways are contributing to the restoration and maintenance of peace in Dagbon, especially the youth associations, for their display of commitment to the Otunfo-led committee. The council passionately appeals to all stakeholders, especially both the sons and daughters of the Royal and Dani and Abudu families, not to renege on this noble path of peace that they have taken. They should note that present sons and daughters of Dagbon and the generations unborn will bless their memories if they do not allow both internal and external forces which do not wish the peace of Dagbon to turn the clock backwards. The council notes with satisfaction the efforts by all parties to ensure that peace is maintained in Bimbilla after the Supreme Court ruling on the chieftaincy dispute. The council, however, wishes to appeal to the Nakpana family and all parties involved to cooperate with the REGSEC in ensuring sustainable peace. The council further wishes to encourage all parties and interest groups in the Bimbilla dispute to be guided by the Supreme Court ruling and observe other important traditional and customary norms and practices in Nanong.
Right, joining me on the line right now is Hashmin Mohammed, our Northern Regional Correspondent. Now, Hashmin, what has been the feedback since the roadmap was presented by the Asante to the President some few weeks back?
Well, there has been a mixed reaction to the roadmap that was presented by the Asante. Whilst the Abudu royal family have welcomed the roadmap as a roadmap that will bring lasting peace to Dagbon, there are still the Andani royal family still have issues with the roadmap. According to them, there are still some key issues that they presented to the committee, and the committee ignored it. And to the extent that they are also, the Otofo is also accusing the Dagbon regent of taking an intransigent position, is something that they are not happy with. And they are accusing the committee of bias, and they think that the roadmap as it has been presented at the moment is not something that can bring lasting peace to Dagbon. Now, there have been a lot of civil society organizations that have been working towards peace in Dagbon, but those civil society organizations themselves, as it stands now, the Andani royal family have issues with them. Some of them are saying that they are being supported by the Northern Regional Security Council, and specifically they mentioned the Northern Regional Minister as someone who is facilitating that, and they are reading some kind of political undertones to the event. Now, within the Andani royal family itself, they are saying that the representation that signed the documents to the peace map is not a true reflection of their interests, and they are saying that at the committee hearing in Kumasi, they oppose all the issues raised in the roadmap, but the Otofo-led committee ignored their concerns and went back and went further to present the roadmap to the presidency. And they are saying that, well, they cannot oppose the funeral of Na Muhammadu Abdullahi since it is a national security, since it is a national issue being implemented by government. But as far as they are concerned, when it comes to the funeral of Yana, Yakubu, and Daniel, they will have issues to raise. So it has been a mixed reaction. Just this afternoon, I had a message from the Andani, the youth of the Andani family, warning the Dagbon Melmiza youth. It is one of the civil society organizations working towards peace. According to them, they have used their name over the weekend in a program that was dubbed to be a peace march, which they do not seek their concern. And media reported it that Abudu and Andani youth marched towards peace, and they are distancing themselves from that supposed peace march. They are saying that because their views were not taken into consideration, they are not part of the organization that organized the peace.
Now, Hashmin, does it mean that they're rejecting this roadmap, or they're willing to follow the roadmap regardless of the issues they have with it?
Well, even before the roadmap was presented to the president, you recall the Andani family staged a press conference in which their spokesperson, Mr. Bashar Dabale, accused the committee of moral corruption and inconsistency. That was a day before the committee presented their report to the presidency. And according to the Andani royal family, they are still maintaining the position they have maintained. And they are saying that the committee, as it stands now, the fact that they are ignoring their concerns tells them that they are biased towards them.
All right, thank you very much, Hashmin Mohammed, bringing that update from the northern region. We're joined via Skype right now by Said Ali Yakub from Kumasi. Good evening to you, Said. Now, what's been the reaction to this letter that's come from the regent of Dagbon to President Kufuor, essentially refuting the claims made by the Asante?
Well, good evening, Israel. In fact, I've been trying to get responses from the Manchia Palace. And you know, issues of this nature, I can tell you that nobody at Manchia will speak to it until they have gotten a clearance from Kufuor. So I tried successfully here in the afternoon to speak to the Chief of Staff of the Palace, Mr. Bedu. Later, I got through to another source in the office, and the indication I have from the Palace is that the Palace is not going to respond to this thing directly. In fact, the source I spoke with described the Dagbon issue as still dicey. So the Manshia Palace is committed to the roadmap, is submitted to the president, and for that matter, they want to concentrate on seeing to it that this roadmap is carried through to bring, lasting peace. So they are not going to respond directly or publicly to this incident as far as this letter is concerned.
But generally, what's been the reaction of the public? Because it appears, or this letter from the regent appears to, go against or challenge the authority of the Asantehene.
Well, the way the communication structure of Manshia is, even if people have issues about this thing, until Otunfor himself, reacts to it publicly, or maybe details somebody to do that, people would not want to go public and talk about it. So that is the situation you have in Kumasi. As far as the public is concerned, people may have read the letter, but then they will not respond to it or react to it publicly. And even within the powers of that, if somebody wants to speak to this issue, the person must get clearance from.
All right, thank you very much, Said Ali Yakub. That's from joining us from the Ashanti Regional Capital, Kumasi. You're watching JoyNews Prime. We're taking a break at this point, but still ahead in the bulletin, government finally withdraws controversial revised AmeriPower agreement and replaces it with a new one. The energy minister says is a whole lot better. We have all that coming up. Stay tuned. Two more flag bearer aspirants of the opposition National Democratic Congress, Dr. Ekoswil Gabra and Idrisu Nuruddin, have picked nomination forms to contest the upcoming presidential primaries of the party. It follows the extension of the deadline for nominations and a compromise reached by the party's functioning executive committee on Wednesday. Head of the legal team for the Swil Gabra campaign, George Tete Wayo, called for inclusiveness in the electoral process when he picked the forms at the party's headquarters.
The candidate has been on various platforms stating the principle, and just yesterday the candidate was another candidate, Sly Mensah, and both of them made that assertion, which is public. For example, if you look at the recent National Congress, where choice of songs were indicating, projecting one person. So we are not the ones saying it.
Who is this person?
Please, you are the media. You know what I'm talking about. So what we are simply saying from our end is that these type of dispositions do not help the race. It's a family affair. It's a family contest. Let all the 12 children of Jacob, let them go out there and tell the Israelites, tell the people they are seeking their assistance via vote, what they have for them. Spill has indicated that he's coming to build constituency offices. He's indicated that he's coming to put up a welfare policy for the ordinary person at the ground floor. So these are the messages. So if persons like Spill have these messages, at the end of the day, the contest itself doesn't seem to be providing a level playing field. It makes the effort of the person, it goes nowhere. So the point is that let the people go out there on that fairness and speak to the delegates, and let the delegates themselves decide who this time around they want to lead the party to 2020.
Deputy General Secretary of the party, Peter Otokuno, in an interview with JoyNews' Kwesi Parker-Wilton, indicated the party's resolve to conduct a credible election.
Since we took office, most of the arrangements that we've done ahead of the January 26 elections has been very fair and very transparent, and we've been very listening. I mean, if you look at the fact that the National Executive Committee came out with the regulations, and aspirants, prospective aspirants, who came together to file a petition were heard based on their concerns. It tells you that the National Executive Committee, or our team, is open to listen to views and ideas and so on. And there is no indication at all that this election, the National Executive Committee is going to be biased and support any other candidate. We have actually thrown the challenge to the aspirants that if they hear or find anything at all that seeks to suggest that some national executive officer is supporting one candidate or the other, they shouldn't hesitate at all to report to us, and the necessary sanctions, would be implemented. So I would be very surprised if somebody or any aspirant still holds the view that we will not be able to provide the fair playing field.
They say it's just been a word of mouth, and there hasn't been any commitment demonstrated to ensure that indeed the elections are going to be conducted in a transparent and fair manner.
So what kind of demonstration are they seeking for us to show them? Like what kind of demonstration? Apart from the word of mouth, apart from the actions that we are taking, have we taken any other action that seeks to suggest that we are supporting candidate A or B? None. We have not done anything of that sort. So, I mean, nobody can say that we have not shown. Or if there is no need to show, why should we show?
We're taking a break to bring you business news, but still ahead in the bulletin, government finally withdraws controversial revised Ameri power agreement and replaces it with a new one. The energy minister says is a whole lot better. Also in the bulletin, police in the Volta region say they've foiled a spiritual attempt to derail the upcoming referendum on a possible split of the Volta region. Now, government has withdrawn the controversial Ameri deal that cost former Energy Minister Boakye Agyarko his job from Parliament. In its place, Energy Minister Peter Amewu has laid before the House a new agreement he says is an enhancement on the previous deal. Joseph Boku-Gakpo has more.
The original Ameri deal was signed by the NDC government in 2015. Following claims by the NPP that it was overpriced, then Energy Minister Boakye Agyarko presented a new agreement to Parliament earlier this year. There was, however, public outcry after it emerged that the agreement committed the government to a whole lot more. It eventually cost the minister his job on the pretext that the presidency was misled. Today in Parliament, Mr. Amewu laid a new deal before the House after withdrawing the old one. He explained the new deal is better than what was negotiated by the previous administration.
When it's debated, the outcome will come out, okay?
Is it better than the first one that was brought, just to get a sense? Is it a better agreement than the first one?
I think there's an improvement.
Okay, improvement in what exactly?
The terms will be laid out when it's here. Okay.
So what can Ghanaians expect generally from this?
I think this is a better agreement. It's an improvement on the what the previous government, the NDC, had offered this country.
Yeah. Is it equally an improvement on what the former energy minister had brought?
It's a better agreement upon what originally had been signed by the previous administration.
But is it better than what was brought by your own administration? Minister for Monitoring and Evaluation, Dr. Anthony Akutwase, says the new deal will save the country about $56 million.
Clearly, if it's better than the original, then it will be better than the renegotiated one. There were some issues with the renegotiated one that the government said it couldn't accept. So you find that the payment is still held the same, but they're giving some concessions that I think the total savings is approximately about 56 million. And the variable cost, I think, has been lowered. So, and I think government is in a better shape as long as we meet our payment obligations. And I think the first payment on the debt rescheduling has been made.
But minority spokesperson on energy, Adams Mutawakilu, is not convinced about the supposed savings.
Innovation agreement, they say it will save us 400 and something million. And finally, the president had to admit for the first time that he was misled. So until they...
You don't have confidence in such an assurance?
After I see the document, I don't want to comment on savings. And that is what I just said, the previous agreement, the innovation. The minister told us that they had saved over 400 million Ghana cedis. And that finally got him fired. And got the president himself admitted that he was misled. Whether it is true, we don't believe that he was misled. It was an agenda to dupe the state that was exposed by the minority.
Government says it is working hard to ensure the relocation of the car power ship barge to Takrady in the Western region happens according to plan. Despite fears, the project could delay. Failure to complete the relocation on time, according to Amandi Energy, the company coordinating the project, could cost the state some $40 million a month for earmarked gas supplies the plant will be unable to use. The delay would also result in a shortfall in the country's electricity generation capacity, with implications for electricity supply. General Manager of Amandi Energy, Boaz Lavi, made this known when the Energy Minister joined him on a tour of the power enclave in the Western region towns of Sekondi and Takrady. There's more in the following report.
The decision to move the power barge to the Abuazi enclave from Tema is just so it could use gas in the enclave to generate electricity at a relatively cheaper cost than the HFO it currently uses. The plant is expected to rely on gas from the Sankofa oil field operated by Eni Ghana, which government has contractually agreed to pay $40 million for whether it makes use of it or not. Amandi Energy, which is coordinating the integration of the systems of the companies involved, however, says the project is behind schedule.
Amandi is going to be able to supply additional 200 megawatts to the grid. Karpao is supplying 450, but Karpao is not an additional. They are just moving. They are currently supplying it in Tema, and they will supply it in Takrady. So generally, in terms of the extra capacity, there will be additional 200 megawatts of capacity. But I think this whole idea of this project is not about extra capacity. It's not more about consuming the gas. The government of Ghana has committed to ENI to purchase gas from them in a take-or-pay method for $40 million a month. So if you currently, government of Ghana, I think from next month or next year, will have to start and pay them $40 million a month. But they need someone to buy this gas in order to generate power. And this is the whole reason why they are moving car power to the west and why they want Amandi to be ready to consume the gas more than the power reason.
And the payment starts, you said, next month?
So this one you have to check with Ministry or with ENI. I'm not sure, but as far as I know, it's now, somewhere now. Okay. This month, next month, the month after, but it's now.
And so if car power is not here by then, it means you are going to be paying ENI for...
Yes, for gas that is not being used.
Wow.
And this is the main reason that there is the pressure on this project to be done on time. This is the main reason.
The Energy Minister, John Peter Amewu, is however downplaying the concerns. He assured the ministry will continue to put pressure on the actors to ensure they deliver on schedule.
I'm very impressed, and I think most of you who started this with us are quite impressed about the progress. So we are expecting the completion as soon as possible. It has its own implication, as you are aware, currently feeding on heavy fuel brought to Takrady. It's going to feed on gas. Gas is cheaper than heavy fuel, so it has an impact on the tariff, and which of course cuts across the benefits to Ghanaians. So let's see what we can do for quick completion of the relocation.
Yeah, but at the briefing right now, it appears the relocation wouldn't happen as expected.
No, we're looking at
you are not enthused about that?
Well, of course, for me, I would have wished it's completed today. But programs and projects of this nature have their own risk elements, and some of the risk elements have been well explicitly stated. So I'll keep on pushing for them to move the completion period, forward.
In a related story, Amandi Energy is expecting an additional 200 megawatts extra capacity of power to be added to the national grid when it completes construction of its own power plant, which will also be plugged into the substation it is building at Abuazi. The project, he says, is 95% complete.
Contractors of the Ghana Solar Support Project have given the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission a 2-week ultimatum to pay arrears owed them since 2016. Members of the association last Friday stormed the PRC with mattresses and pillows, threatening to spend the night there if the Commission does not pay them their monies. The Energy Commission and the PRC were tasked to coordinate the execution of the Ghana Solar Support Project to provide solar power for small-scale businesses in 2015. But solar companies who were tasked to install the solar panels say they have not received a PESWA since 2016.
They're not going anywhere. You tell her that some people are sleeping here waiting for her.
The project was initiated in 2015 to provide solar power for small-scale businesses who were crumbling under the biting effects of the power crisis. Solar companies who are paid-up members of the Association of Ghana Solar Industry, licensed by the Energy Commission, were selected and assigned to the various regions to execute the task. Payments, according to members, was supposed to be done every 90 days after execution, but the contractors say that has never happened since 2016.
And we did a number of installations across the country, but to date, none of us has been paid. Some of our colleagues have been taken to court. Our manufacturers are chasing us all over the place. Some took loans, the banks are threatening to take over their properties, and it's so disheartening.
In the last quarter of 2017, validation inspections of the installations were conducted by auditors and engineers of the PURC. PURC wrote to terminate the contract, assuring contractors of payments after the validation inspections were completed. The contractors say Executive Secretary of the PURC, Mamidufi Ofori, has been out of touch and unavailable.
The PURC was supposed to write to us telling us a trend of what they're doing, cataloging what action they've taken so far to get us paid. But we still haven't received that letter. We're still waiting for it. So you go to the commission, you don't have access to the executive secretary. She's never available. She's not accessible. We gave them 2 weeks. We said if in 2 weeks we don't hear anything, we're going to be back there in their offices.
The contractors explain the situation has resulted in several lawsuits from suppliers and workers being laid off. They are threatening to seek redress at the law court if their demands are not met in 2 weeks. When JoyNews contacted the Executive Secretary of the PURC, Mamidufi Ofori, she declined comments on the matter.
The Ministry of Works and Housing says it is committed to ensuring that all buildings and that are disability friendly and is willing to go by the newly drafted building code. This was after the Ghana Federation of Disability Organizations presented a petition for the inclusion of accessibility features in all public infrastructure. Nancy Imafajra-Dozie was at the ministry and now reports.
One after the other, they had to find their way into the ministry's building with a lot of difficulty. Considering it is the ministry supposed to ensure that all buildings were accessible to persons with disability, it was found seriously wanting. After about 30 minutes of waiting, the Deputy Minister and Chief Director walked in for proceedings to begin. The spokesperson for the group, Reverend John Meffel, was outraged over the failure of successive governments to seriously monitor and ensure that buildings are disability friendly.
Accessibility for persons with disabilities is a right. The excuses are enough. Action now. Government should show by example and adapt all government buildings immediately so as to have the moral justification to sanction the rest of society that is not complying.
He also had several recommendations for the ministry, which he says they will be monitoring closely.
No bid should be considered on presentation without meeting the accessibility criteria. 3. Ensure sanctions are brought on any contractor who fails to comply with the accessibility provisions of the law.
When he finally got the chance to speak, the Deputy Minister of Works and Housing, Eugene Boakye-Ntwi, first apologized to the Federation for their inability to receive their petitions on Monday.
Yes, I will apologize on behalf of the ministry and our good selves that your visit to these premises on the 3rd was not communicated to us, unfortunately, and you met our absence. We do apologize for that.
He also pledged his ministry's commitment to ensuring that all buildings comply with the building code, which was launched by the Vice President.
The code has been launched, but the regulations to see to its effective implementation are also going to be launched soon, so that we can give true meaning to the building code.
Speaking to JoyNews after the presentation, the Vice President of the Ghana Federation of Disability Organizations, Maunyo Yakwadegba, noted that they will make sure that they follow up on the promises the minister had made.
We are following through with our plan to ensure that ministers of state adhere to the act that was passed by Parliament.
Meanwhile, they are asking all government institutions to lead by example by ensuring that all buildings are accessible to persons with disability. Nancy Emefa-Dredose, JoyNews.
The Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana is calling on government to introduce policies that will allow better access to credit facilities. Executive Director Victoria Adongo tells JoyNews it's difficult for farmers to access loans because the banks demand what he describes as colossal collaterals. JoyNews' Henry Kwesi Badu has been engaging some farmers ahead of this year's Farmers' Day celebration and reports.
This is Al Hassan Agbo's farmland. He has been cultivating vegetables to feed his household for the past 2 decades. Al Hassan cultivates 1 hectare out of the total 3 hectares due to scarce resources.
It's about 2.5 hectares farm. And I do cultivate about 1.5 acres due to lack of funds. And secondly, we are irrigation farmers, and there is also lack of inadequate water. Inadequate water, because of these 2 challenges, I have to cultivate just a few, about 2.5 acres at a time, because of this challenge.
His key challenge is financing. From inputs, seedlings, and paying for labor services, money is involved every step of the way.
Because there's no money, banks are not able to assist. You have to go to maybe the ladies who takes produce from you to lend money, maybe at a high rate, or maybe you don't get at all. So this is the way we do get money to pay for our labors, sometimes through our local customers.
As we mark Farmers' Day, the Executive Director of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, Victoria Adongo, is demanding that government provides access to credit and introduce insurance schemes to support farmers.
Provide farm insurance for farmers. If the government can guarantee on that if the farmer is not able to pay the loan, the government or the insurance can pay off the loan. I think for starters, that will help. The second thing that I think that the government should do is to impress on the Bank of Ghana, to even not the Bank of Ghana. I think the government should come up with a regulation or a policy, whatever, that a certain percentage of the loan portfolios in the banks should be set aside for smallholder farmers.
The national president, Mohamed Abdullani, a cotton farmer himself, recounts his ordeal accessing a loan.
More than 10 or 12 years ago, since 2001, I struggled to get loan from ADB. I couldn't get loan. I needed to buy a tractor. I could not get. I wanted to expand my farm. I could not get. Simply because there are 2 issues. One of the issues has to do with collateral. They'll be asking you to come with a collateral that, and as a poor farmer or a peasant farmer, how are you coming by that? Sometimes when you give them your car document or your tractor document, if you have it, they don't need it. They need a land or something that is within their category, but they may not like those that you have. The other issue has to do with the percentage, the interest rate. It's very, very high. As a peasant farmer, when you take it, at the end of the day, you see that it is difficult for you to be able to pay those loans that you have taken from them. So it is always difficult getting access to bank loans.
He wants the Agri-Development Bank to focus on its original mandate of supporting agri-businesses in the country.
ADB was put purposely to support farmers to have access to their businesses. But it's rather unfortunate that ADB does not support farmers now. What they are looking into are business people. The farmers doesn't have access to credit from ADB.
Statistics have shown that more than 30% of farm produce is lost annually through post-harvest losses. The association is appealing to government to provide storage facilities to address the problem. Henry Kwesibedu's report for JoyNews.
The Volta Regional Police Command says it has arrested 2 individuals who had resorted to spiritual means to derail the upcoming referendum that could see a split of the Volta region. Ebenezer Achu, 33, and Shepherd Akolache, 55, were reported to have visited a shrine in Volta to cast a spell on President Akufo-Addo. The chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Jean Mensah, the Asantehene Otumfuo-Setutu, and 4 others to cancel the upcoming referendum. The fetish priest instead reported them to the police at Georgia, who effected the arrest. Fred Kwame Asari sent in this report.
Speaking at an encounter with the press at home, the Volta Regional Police Commander, DCOP Francis Doku, explained the suspects, upon interrogation, revealed they were sent by one John, who lives at Ashaiman.
The threats that we are receiving from the impending referendum, we are receiving threats from people who are against the creation of the Uti region. And the threats are coming in physical and spiritual forms. Just yesterday, at about 12 o'clock in the afternoon, the police in Georgia had information that some 2 young men from Ashaman had approached a herbalist with some names of prominent people, including the President of the Republic of Ghana, Dr. Yao Lecha Archibald, the Volta Regional Minister, Honorable Dan Bochwe, the Minister for Regional Organization, Mrs. Jean Adokwe Mensah, the Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Obera Samoa, a prominent politician, and also a citizen from one of the areas that has been earmarked for the new region. Then we have Justice Broby, who chaired the commission that was to seek the opinion of people who intend to have a region for themselves. And then finally we have Asantehene Otumfuo-Setutu II, also on the list. These 2 young men approaching the shrine is to cast a spell on those that I have mentioned, the personalities that I have mentioned, in order that they will call for the cancellation of referendum in the Uti region.
The 2 suspects, whose images are kept out of the media for security reasons, are assisting the police with investigations. The Regional Police Command has, however, assured of maximum security during the December 27 referendum in the northern part of the Volta region.
They are up to all manner of things. But we, on our part, as the security agency responsible for the maintenance of internal security, will do everything within our power to ensure that the referendum is held devoid of any security threats or manifestation.
Fred Kwame Asari's report for JoyNews.
Now, new research has shown many boys have sexual intercourse before their 18th birthday. The research by NGO Savannah Signature shows that for women, 32% engage in sex before they attain that age. The researchers sampled mostly students in technical and vocational training colleges in 3 regions. Efwa Evans-Chinwe reports.
Research on the sexual and reproductive health statistics of young people in Ghana showed that the majority, 80% of girls and 73% of boys between 15 to 24 years, do not have comprehensive knowledge on their sexual reproductive health and rights. The survey was conducted in 3 regions across the country. Young people between the ages of 18 to 25 from some selected vocational and technical training institutions gain knowledge on their sexual reproductive rights from friends who influence them negatively. Young people from the northern Ashanti and the Bonoahafu region were questioned about their sexual reproductive rights. It was discovered that these trainees suffer high cases of sexual reproductive health and gender-based violence. According to Eric Anaba, head of programs at Savannah Signatures, parents have failed in ensuring that their children gain the requisite knowledge on their sexual rights.
From the assessment we did, most young people get their information on sexual issues from their friends. Parents are not really doing much. There's a talk, we are saying it every day, that parents should talk to young people concerning their SRHR needs and all that, but it's not happening. From the data that was presented, most of them get the information from their friends, and you can't tell if that information is right or wrong because it's from peers, and peers can say anything, some right, some wrong, and some myths and all that. So we are saying that parents should take up the role because the children spend more time at home, and it is their duty as parents. Let's do away with the shyness. Let's do away with the traditional beliefs that sex is a no-go area for young people. They are doing it anyway. So we need to give them the right information from the base. If the base is strong, then we can really be sure that we'll have young people who will be free from pregnancy and other related SRHR issues. Yep.
He added that to address the sexual reproductive needs of young people, it is important to provide them with youth-friendly sexual rights health services.